Hello and welcome. My name is Elisha Whitmore, and today I'm going to examine some of the linguistic aspects of the Mandarin language. Let's first take a look and see what Mandarin sounds like.
中国的东北，大家说东北话，其实只是我觉得就是口音有一点不一样吧，然后被大家会认为有一些土或者是很搞笑，但是对我来说，它是有我的。
If you were like me, you might have heard her speak it and referred to her as speaking Chinese. Well, Mandarin is Chinese, but only one kind. Think of Chinese as like this umbrella here. Okay, and under the umbrella is over 200 dialects and languages. Mandarin is the most used Chinese language. Let's look at some of the different Chinese languages and see how different they sound. The people in the next clip I'm going to show you are all saying, "Have you eaten?" Have you eaten is the typical greeting in China. You would say this instead of, "How are you?"
你吃饭了吗？你起飯了不？
侬吃過飯啦？你食飯了未？
樂家公館。
Most people speak Mandarin in China. This map right here shows that 61.2% of China speaks Mandarin. There are 917 million native speakers of Mandarin, and 1 out of 6 speak it in the world. It is the third most spoken language in the US. Let's take a look at the writing system. There is no alphabet. There is characters. It is written from left to right, unlike the traditional form that wrote in vertical columns. The traditional form had 50,000 characters, but now Simple Mandarin consists of 6,500. The government simplified Mandarin in order to improve literacy. The traditional language has written records from 3,000 years ago. Many Chinese languages come from the traditional form, so they share the same characters. The Chinese languages sound different, but the written form has some of the same characters. Here is a sample right here, if you see these trees, of a writing, and you can see that this shape, this character, is very similar, and it's repeated through trees, woods, and forest. So moving on to phonology. There are 4 tones used in Mandarin. Let's look and see them.
There are 4 tones in Chinese, and they can change the meaning of the same syllable. Okay? So, first one is the high level tone. It sounds like ah.
Ah.
Very good. And second tone, we call it a rising tone, and it sounds like ah.
Ah.
Very good. Third tone, we call it a lower and then rising tone. Sounds like ah.
Ah.
Very good. And the fourth tone, we call it a falling tone. It's a quick drop from the highest pitch to the lowest pitch. Sounds like ah.
Ah.
Yeah, you may notice the last.
So tones change the meaning of words. In English, we don't speak without tone. It's not absent. We can use tone to make something more relaxed or tense, but it doesn't change the meaning. For example, I could tell my kids no or no in different tones, and they might know if I say it in a certain way that I may be mad. But in English, it still means the same thing no matter how I say it. In Mandarin, tonal pitch is so important. The tone completely changes the meaning of the word. You can say ma in different tones and it means something completely different. Let's take a look.
Fourth tone means scold, and as you can see, the same MA spelling with the 4 different tones can mean completely different things. And you don't want to grade someone's mother as horse. So let's make sure we do the right tones.
Now, I know it's a big fear that I had, and I think a lot of people when they're first starting out with Mandarin, if you get the wrong tone, you could really insult somebody, like calling somebody's mom a horse. Is that?
So you don't want to say ma in the wrong tone and call your mom a horse. So in Mandarin, there is 21 consonants and 16 main vowels. Mandarin does not use consonant clusters, so a word like splits would not exist because SPL is a consonant cluster and so is TS. In Mandarin, it's either vowel sounds or vowel consonant sounds. Every character in Mandarin is one syllable. If the word is a compound word, there are more than one syllable. So all words are not exactly monosyllabic, but the characters are. Okay. So let's go over here and look at the characteristics of Mandarin's morphology. So morphology characteristics of the Mandarin language, there are free and bound roots. The first white box right here is a word. This second box is part of that word, and this is a free fix. It means something on its own. This part of the word right here is bound because it cannot stand alone. It has no meaning by itself. There are no inflectional or derivational changes. You cannot simply add an S to get a plural or a possessive form like in English, and you cannot add an ED to show past tense. However, characters are used to show different perfect and past tense, and also word order is shaped. So in this example right here, it says, yesterday I went to Zongshan Park. The symbol or character that looks like a 7, you can see it right in here, is added to show past tense. There are also no phrasal verbs in Mandarin, so you can't say something like take on, give in, look up to. This can be a real struggle for English language learners. So moving on to syntax, in Mandarin, sentence structure is used by subject, verb, object. In English, we do this too, but we never break this rule. Mandarin sometimes does. There are cases where you can order your sentences as subject, object, verb, or just subject, or you could put the object first. There are also no definite articles used in Mandarin. You would say one cat instead of a cat. You would never say the word the. The language is both head final and head initial. The spoken language is more head final and the written form is more head initial. Pragmatics of Mandarin. We have all heard of Chinese proverbs. We see they violate maximums. What they say is quite different than what they mean. So this proverb says, dig the well before you are thirsty, which actually means plan ahead. This one says, by falling we learn to go safely, which actually means we learn from our mistake. So let's talk about these speech acts. The Chinese communicate in a way that is very much different to speakers of English. In TESOL classrooms, English language learners can transfer their speech acts from their L1 to their L2. So looking at some conversations in context. Remember the video you saw earlier that showed the typical Chinese greeting, have you eaten? If you go to China, don't mistake this as an invitation for lunch. They also will say to someone, where are you going? And this actually means, how are you? So don't mistake this as them being rude. They're just being kind and asking you, how are you? So in Chinese, there is no back channeling in conversations. Back channeling is like when you're talking to your friend and you say, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. We do this to show we do this so we show that we're interested in what they are saying. Chinese speakers would actually consider this as an interruption. So looking ahead at some resources that we can use in our classroom, this is Language Lizard, and you can go on here and you can actually search by language, and you can go down to Chinese and you can see there's the Chinese Simplified and the Chinese Traditional. So I put it on the Chinese Simplified, and here are some books in those language. Now what I would do with these is I would pair this with your CUNY Translanguaging Guide and come up with some good strategies to teach English while using their language. All right. And this is also something else I found. I actually haven't found a lot of resources that I truly love. I know they're out there, but I just haven't found them in, this last year of grad school. So this is just some games, because games are universal. I do believe that everyone likes to play games, no matter where you are from. So you can click on some of these and it will help the students learn English. All right, so some lesson strategies. I'm gonna just put this game up here. So Mandarin speakers will have problems with their ul and their sounds, like I told you before. They don't have these sounds in their language. And they will also have problems making words plural and past tense, as they don't have those as well. So this game right here, what you would do with them is you would roll a dice and say if they got a 2 and they landed on cat, they would make this plural. So this is a fun game for learning plurals. And for the ul and sounds, I think it would be really neat if you just brought in a bunch of objects that start with the ul and sounds. I believe that Realia is a really good way to introduce sounds, real meaningful objects, and so they can just practice holding and saying the sounds. So I just want to thank you for watching my presentation, and here are some references from some resources of where I've gotten all my facts. So I just want to thank you so much and have a good day.